No one needs to know you're starting over. No one needs to witness the pain you're enduring in silence. And the truth is, most people won't care. But that's not the problem, because your goal was never to be noticed. Your goal is to change your life, quietly, silently, radically. Every time you publicly announce a plan, you're not just sharing your goal, you're actually taking away a part of your own motivation. The human brain gets tricked. Speaking it out loud feels like progress, but that feeling is a lie and it kills action. You don't need to declare anything, you just need to begin alone, if you must, without support, if necessary, without understanding from others. And that's okay. Most of the deepest transformations happen in silence. Let people think you're standing still while you're digging deeper into yourself. While others sleep, you study. While others talk, you act. While others prove, you build. No noise, no flare, just one thing, real progress. Don't underestimate the power of starting with no one watching. Don't undervalue the worth of a day where you quietly follow through on a promise you made to yourself. A small step that never makes it online is not a meaningless step. It's the first brick in a foundation that cannot be shaken. You are building silent strength, and when the time comes, it will produce results no one can ignore. The world is full of people who say they'll do something. Very few actually start. The world is full of those who want to prove themselves, who want to share every move, every little milestone. But you, if you are clear-headed, will choose the harder path, to stay silent so that all your energy goes toward action. You don't need applause every time you finish a task. You don't need praise every time you take a right step. What you need is precision, persistence, and a discipline that cannot be moved. These things don't need to be photographed. They need to be repeated daily without interruption. This isn't just a lesson in humility, it's a strategy, because when you're silent, you become unpredictable. When you say nothing, no one can distort or derail your path. When no one knows what you're building, no one can destroy it from the outside or from within your own mind. No one can stop a person they cannot see. No one can block a plan they don't know exists. And nothing is stronger than unwavering persistence that demands no recognition. The only question you need to answer is not, what do people think of me? But, did I truly move one step forward today? If you can answer the second one every day, you'll never have to worry about the first again. And gradually, you'll feel yourself change. No need to declare you're transforming. You'll become living proof of it. This journey won't come with roses. There will be exhaustion, there will be days you'll want to quit because nothing seems to be working. There will be moments you'll ask yourself, what am I doing all this for? The answer is, so you don't have to keep living in the same helplessness you feel now. So you don't have to keep envying someone else's life. So that one day, you no longer need to explain who you are. Yeah, you just show up, and the world will understand. If you're truly serious about change, begin. But don't begin with an announcement. Begin with a quiet act. Don't tell the world you're about to rise. Start digging the ground, pouring the foundation, laying each brick. Because if you do that long enough, deep enough, and strong enough, you won't have to say a word. Your results will speak for you. And at that point, there will be nothing left to prove, because you will have become the proof. Every day, you're pulled into an invisible race. Who appears more impressive? Who gets more attention? Who seems more successful? But do you know what's truly dangerous here? It's not that you might lose, it's that you don't realize. You're living to maintain an image, not a life. You choose the perfect angle, the flawless words, the convincing expressions, just to look like you're okay. But at night, when you're alone, you know very well you're chasing something hollow. The validation of others is an addictive drug. Every compliment gives you a high, every moment of being unnoticed feels like you've vanished, and because you depend so heavily on the eyes of others, you gradually lose your core, action, real progress, real results. You post a photo of yourself studying, but you don't study deeply enough. You announce you're starting a new challenge, but you don't follow through. You share your goals, but never finish them. Because you've become used to something much easier, the feeling of effort, rather than real effort. But you don't need more people to know you're trying. You need to actually do it. You don't need more admiration. You just need to know that you're better than you were yesterday. That alone is enough. Success doesn't come from what you prove. It comes from what you repeat, daily, silently. The more someone needs others to see their growth, the less they're likely to truly grow. Because too much energy goes into maintaining the image. They always have to appear as if they're rising, even when everything inside is falling apart. And once you're trapped in that spiral, you're no longer living authentically. You react to other people's responses. You adjust to please the crowd. You forget that you're supposed to live by one standard only, your own. You won't go far if you always need someone to remind you that you're good. You won't be stable if every step depends on the number of likes. Because those things are fickle. People may love you today and forget you tomorrow. They may praise you in one post and tear you down in the next comment. But if you build your success from the inside out, no one can take that away from you. I've seen many people who look perfect online but lack the strength to fight procrastination. Many who seem successful in pictures but don't have the discipline to maintain habits. Many who claim to be growing but inside they're chaotic, lazy, and lost. And then comes the collapse, not because they weren't talented, but because they were too busy proving their talent. They had no time left to actually become talented. A fit body doesn't need daily check-ins at the gym. A smart person doesn't need to declare they're studying. A successful person doesn't need to post a status saying they're starting over. They just quietly build, advance, and repeat. And one day, the results will do what no image ever can: silence. Results leave people speechless. Results make criticism meaningless. Results free you from having to explain. No one asks how hard you tried. They see what you've accomplished. And that is a power no image can buy. So if you're trying to find yourself again, start with one question. Did I do something today that brought me closer to my goal? If yes, hold on to it, double it, and repeat it tomorrow. If not, turn off your phone, step away from social media, and do one small thing that you know will make you better. Just one thing. One time, then one more. No one needs to know, but you need to do it. And that's the moment you begin to truly live. Not for image, but for results. You don't need to be more talented than others to succeed. You just need to be better than who you were yesterday, consistently, long enough, and steadily enough. Talent is an advantage, but repetition is the foundation. Talent might help you start faster, but without the perseverance to repeat, you won't get very far. On the other hand, someone who's not exceptionally gifted, but repeats the right actions the right way every single day, will inevitably surpass the talented one who lacks discipline. Every summit you've ever looked up to was built with thousands of small, unnoticed steps. A strong body is forged from hundreds of workouts never posted online. A stable business is built from thousands of work hours while others are asleep. A sharp mind is not born, it's honed through every book read, every note taken, every quiet morning without applause. There is no magic formula except this: repeat the right thing even when you don't yet see the result. The problem is, most people only repeat when they feel motivated. When energy is high, they act. But when the emotion fades, they stop. And then they start again with a new plan, a new project, a new dream. But repeat the same thing, giving up before the results show. They don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they lack the ability to endure. If you want to go all the way, you must learn to respect the small actions repeated daily. Reading 10 pages today won't change your life. But reading every day for a year will give you a knowledge bank money can't buy. One workout won't make you stronger, but 300 will completely shift your energy. Saying no to procrastination once means nothing, but a long chain of no will make you unshakable. To do that, you must accept this truth. Repetition is boring. There's nothing glamorous about doing the same thing again and again, day after day, without immediate reward. And that's exactly why people quit. And that's exactly why you will win. While others demand quick results, you learn to love the process. While others need motivation to act, you learn to act without it. While others chase novelty, you stay loyal to the old, because you know the old thing you're doing is the foundation for something greater. Repetition is not laziness. It's the strategy of those who understand deeply. A carpenter doesn't change tools every day. He trains with the same tool until his hands and the wood become one. An artist doesn't need a new brush, just a steady hand. A successful person doesn't run in 10 directions. They repeat one direction until they break through the limit. You don't need to do many things. You need to do one thing many times until you master it. Success doesn't belong to those who do more. It belongs to those who go deeper. The ones who, with every repetition, move a step closer to the peak. And here's the final thing you must remember. No one sees you repeat every day. No one applauds you for skipping a night out to stay home and study. No one knows how many hours you've trained to improve just a little. But when success finally arrives, people will call you a genius. They'll forget the thousands of hours you repeated in the dark. But you, not talent, but the choice to repeat every day when no one was watching, no one was cheering, and no one believed in you but yourself. It's not the easiest way, but it's the only way guaranteed to take you where you want to go. Not through shortcuts, but through a kind of consistency that cannot be replicated. Every time you receive praise, your brain releases dopamine. You feel seen, acknowledged, valued. But have you noticed, the more praise you get, the more addicted you become to that feeling. And when no one praises you anymore, you begin to doubt yourself. You lose interest in action and become more interested in recognition. That's the moment you lose sight of your original goal. You're no longer chasing your dream, you're chasing approval. Praise is like sugar, sweet, addictive, but not something that nourishes you long term. If you need applause from others in order to take action, you're no longer doing it for the real reason. You're being pulled by external emotions instead of being led by inner vision. And that's dangerous, because when the world goes silent, so will you. There will be days when no one texts to ask how hard you're trying. No one will ask how far you've come. No one will say, wow, you've really worked hard. And if you don't know how to keep moving forward in that silence, you'll lose your way. Your goal will fade, and you'll fall back into the old loop, needing applause to take another step, needing attention to feel worthy. You came to fulfill something that matters to you, even if the world doesn't care. The only question you should ask yourself each day is not what do people think of me, but am I moving in the right direction? The goal is your compass. Praise is not. Good feelings are only temporary waves, but your goal, that's the lighthouse you must never lose sight of. You can't build anything great if you're always chasing applause, because applause never lasts. A post might get praised today and be forgotten tomorrow. A milestone might win admiration this week, but someone else will do something greater next week. And if recognition is your fuel, you'll always need more attention, more compliments, more admirers just to keep working. That's not self-mastery. That's dependency. But when you stay committed to your goal, you're no longer shaken by external emotions. You keep working even when no one's watching. You stay consistent even when no one checks in. You keep moving forward even when there's no cheering crowd, because you know what you're building is real. It doesn't live on social media. It doesn't need a spotlight. It lives inside you, and it's growing every single day. But the clearest difference between those who achieve great things and those who remain stuck is not in skill, not in circumstance. It's in this. One needs praise, the other needs results. One acts out of fear of being forgotten. The other acts because they can't live without that purpose. One constantly seeks to prove something to the world. The other only needs to prove it to themselves. If you're addicted to praise, pause. Stop sharing every step. Stop counting admirers. Stop caring who's paying attention. And ask yourself, if no one ever knew about this success, would I still pursue it? If the answer is yes, you're on the right path. If not, perhaps you're chasing admiration, not the real journey. And don't confuse motivation with applause. Real motivation doesn't need an audience. It comes from a deep connection between you and the goal. When you work with clarity of purpose, you don't need praise, you need action. And you need to stay consistent, especially on the days when nothing happens and no one's watching. You won't break halfway because you lacked praise. You only break when you forget your reason for starting. So keep the goal closer to your heart. Praise is fleeting, results are what last. And the ones who truly succeed are those who master their emotions, who pause at the right time, who give up the habit of seeking validation, and return to the one thing worth holding on to, the original goal. You don't need to argue, explain, or prove anything with words. All you need is one clear result, and all the noise will fall silent. In a world where everyone rushes to declare what they're going to do, results are the rarest and most valuable thing. Because everyone has a plan, but very few finish. Everyone has big ideas, but very few turn them into reality. And that's why results become the only voice that truly carries weight. You can't fake results. You can't perform real skill. You can't Photoshop perseverance. Results aren't for showing off. They're there so you don't have to say anything. When you've built something solid enough, others will see it without you having to speak. That's when you step out at the meaningless race. Who talks better? Who has the flashier strategy? Who gets more attention? You stand alone, working for real, with a different standard, the final result. But what's unfortunate is that most people spend their energy announcing their efforts. They post their goals, they share every small step, they create the illusion that they're making fast progress. But they forget saying it out loud gives the feeling that part of the work is already done, but that's just an illusion. And the more you talk, the less likely you are to finish. Because every time you receive recognition too early, you lose a piece of the quiet drive that the real process needs. Success doesn't need you to make an announcement. It just needs you to act. Deep enough, steady enough, silent enough. And one day it will speak for itself. At that moment, you won't have to convince anyone to believe in you. They will see, they will understand, they will accept. Not because you spoke well, but because you performed well. There's a simple truth no one likes to hear. The most successful people are often the quietest. They spend very little time explaining their plans. They make no promises. They don't present to impress. They work, they persist, they produce results. And that's enough. You don't need to start by being trusted. You just need to do well enough that no one can deny you. And you do that not to outshine others. You do it because it's the only way to build something that lasts. You'll see people arguing about mindsets, about strategies, about the right way to succeed, but those with real results don't join those debates. They don't have time. They're too busy acting, fixing mistakes, improving, and then their results appear, silencing every opposing argument. Results also carry another kind of power. They silence those who doubted you. Maybe they laughed at you. Maybe they dismissed you. Maybe they said you didn't have what it takes. But when your results show up, they'll have nothing left to say. Not because you fought back, but because what you created did that for you. Remember this, the fewer results someone has, the more they talk. The more real results someone has, the quieter they become. Because they don't need to speak. They don't need to explain. They don't need permission to be recognized. Their accomplishments do that for them. And you can become that kind of person if you dare to step away from the spotlight and focus on building something real. You don't need to impress, you just need to let your results do that. And to achieve that, you must learn to live without needing anyone to know, anyone to cheer, or anyone to approve, as long as you know where you're going and why. Every real step forward doesn't make noise at first, but it compounds quietly, day by day, until it becomes something impossible to ignore. When that time comes, you won't need to narrate your journey, you'll just show up. And others will see, not because you made noise, but because your results are too clear to overlook. That is the most powerful voice you can create, one without words, but impossible to deny. Don't confuse silence with weakness. The silence you choose is not a lack of confidence. It's the strategy of those who understand deeply, go far, and don't need to make noise to prove their worth. Because the greater the thing you're building, the more you realize the fewer people who know what you're doing, the greater your chance of finishing it. The fewer opinions thrown in, the better you preserve your focus. And the fewer eyes watching you, the more room you have to fail, to fix, and to become excellent without being distracted by other people's expectations. Silence is the shield that blocks out all unnecessary interference. When you don't make your plans public, you don't have to hear questions like, do you really think you can pull that off? Or, you doing something like that? Or, sounds good, but maybe not for someone like you. Whether said casually or deliberately, those words are toxins that slow your progress. But if no one knows what you're building, they can't destroy it. If no one knows you're about to break through, they can't stop you. And if no one sees that you're changing, they can't define you by who you used to be. The more silent you are, the harder you are to read. The harder you are to read, the more you preserve your advantage. In any field, surprise is what sets you apart. While others are still judging you based on your past image, you've already upgraded to a higher level. While they think you've paused, you're actually laying the foundation for a bigger leap. And by the time they notice, you're already out of reach. The strategy of silence gives you another gift, freedom. When you don't feel the need to show that you're making progress, you free yourself from the image trap. You no longer live to update anyone. You don't need to share every milestone. You don't have to worry about what others think of your journey. You're allowed to fail without scrutiny, allowed to start over without shame, allowed to try bold things without asking for permission. Many people fail to change their lives, not because they're incapable, but because they're afraid to start over in front of others. They fear being judged, doubted, looked down upon. But when you choose silence, you bypass all those barriers. You don't need to explain, you just need to act. Of course, living in silence is not easy. There are no compliments to boost your motivation, no followers to reassure you that you're on the right track, no instant rewards. But because of that, you become stronger. When there's no validation from the outside, you're forced to build something else, belief in yourself. And once you have that, you don't need the world to cheer you on. You just need to keep going. Those who build great things aren't the loudest. They're the ones who know when to be silent. They say nothing while they're experimenting. They don't make announcements when they're failing. They don't brag when they're learning from scratch. But one day, they show up with something no one was prepared for, and the world is forced to listen. Silence doesn't make you invisible, it makes you effective. It helps you avoid noise, helps you conserve energy, helps you control the pace. And when you've done well enough, long enough, with enough discipline, that silence becomes a quiet force that others respect. No need to explain, no need to shout, no need to compare. The result appears. And all the assumptions dissolve. So if you're working in the dark, keep going, don't rush to speak, don't rush to share, just don't rush to be understood. They don't need to understand, they only need to see the final result. And when that time comes, they'll understand everything. Through the silence, you maintained as a sharp strategy, not because you were timid, but because you knew silence is the fastest way forward without anything pulling you back. You don't need praise to become excellent. In fact, the more you crave praise, the harder it is to reach excellence. Because at that point, you begin doing things not for depth, but for recognition. You choose goals that impress others instead of those that truly matter. You fear failure not for your own sake, but because you're afraid of losing the image you've worked so hard to build. But real success isn't built on perception. It's created in silence, with persistence quietly, without a stage. Many people fall into the trap of recognition. They achieve something and rush to share it. They make a small step forward and immediately seek applause. Then they end up living in a constant state of needing to maintain their status, to keep impressing, to always look like they're succeeding. But here's the truth. The more you need to be acknowledged, the more you lose focus on what truly matters. Yeah, you stop working for quality, you start working to be seen. True success is not loud. It's a steady state that doesn't require validation. Those who achieve it don't need to talk much. They don't need to explain their journey or build a personal brand with every step. They just live by their own standards and let the results speak. When you're truly skilled, you're no longer in a rush to be noticed. You have the calm to let people realize it on their own. And if they don't, that's fine. Exactly right. That's fine. Because you're not living for applause. Yeah. If they don't, there are people who've done extraordinary things for years, but they're not in the news, they're not in social media, they don't have a PR team, yet they reshape systems, they leave a legacy. Meanwhile, there are those who talk about success every day but leave behind nothing lasting, because what they're building isn't ability, it's image. If you constantly have to prove you're successful, maybe you're not truly successful yet, because when what you built is big enough, you don't have to prove it, it proves itself. No one needs to be told about a towering tree. Just by standing tall in the open, it tells the story of its silent journey underground. True success gives you freedom. Freedom from having to constantly update. Freedom from needing to please the crowd. Freedom from maintaining an image. You are free to live truthfully, even if it doesn't look good to others. You are free to go against the current, if that current isn't taking you where you want to go. You are free to be quiet. And that's not losing. That's winning, without needing applause anymore. The silence of someone who's built something real, that's what makes others stop and listen. Because they know you don't need them. You don't need praise. You don't need to be understood. You just need to do the right work. And that kind of inner stability, that's something people who succeed through image will never have. When you stop living to impress, you start living authentically. When you no longer seek applause, you finally have the focus to build something truly worthy. Because admiration is temporary, but ability is permanent. And at some point you'll realize the greatest thing isn't to be known, it's to be free to do what you believe in the way you choose, without needing anyone's permission. True success isn't the praise you receive, it's the peace you carry, even when no one is watching. And the person who holds on to that peace is the one who has overcome the need for validation. They don't need lights, they don't need applause, they don't need titles, because they know real results never need promotion. They speak loudly through their own weight. The weak stay silent because they fear saying the wrong thing. The strong stay silent because they don't need to speak. And what makes the difference isn't volume, it's inner strength. When your mind is solid enough, you no longer feel the need to prove anything. You don't get pulled into petty arguments. You don't respond to every attack. You don't feel the need to constantly defend yourself. Not because you've lost, but because you know you've already outgrown that level. A steel mind doesn't need to win every conversation. It selects what's worth speaking for. It doesn't dive into everything based on fleeting emotion. It understands the difference between wanting to react and needing to act. True strength lies in the ability to stay silent when emotions are high, when you're misunderstood, when you're attacked, and still continue doing exactly what you need to do. You don't have to answer every criticism. You don't have to explain every choice. You don't have to justify the changes in your life. Those who are mentally fragile can't stand silence. They need feedback. They need understanding. They need allies. But those who possess a steel mind are different. They can be alone, doubted, uncelebrated, and still keep moving, unwavering. You can't build anything solid if you're shaken by every opinion. Every criticism makes you stop. Every compliment makes you lose your essence. Every misunderstanding forces you to waste time explaining. That's not how the strong operate. The strong know that reacting has a cost. And the stronger your mind, the more you conserve your energy for what truly matters. A steel mind isn't born, it's forged. Day by day, through difficult situations, painful failures, moments of being underestimated, yet staying firmly on course. It's the ability to stay focused in chaos, to keep building when no one believes in you, to stay loyal to your values, even if you're standing alone. And your silence isn't an absence. It's a space you create for yourself to think more clearly, to see farther, to avoid pointless arguments that drain your willpower. Sometimes saying nothing is the highest form of self-mastery. You don't need to crush someone's argument, you just need to act until their argument no longer stands. The weak seek inspiration from outside, the strong generate it from within. You don't need applause to move forward. You don't need a special day, a reminder, or a sign from the universe. You only need one strong reason and a steady mind that doesn't lose direction halfway through. The silence of the weak comes from lacking resistance. The silence of the strong comes from mastering it. And from that mastery, they gain control over their actions, their choices, and their destiny. A person can lose everything, money, status, relationships, but if they still have a steel mind, they can rebuild it all. Because everything lasting begins from within. Without a solid mental foundation, nothing stands long in the real world. You don't need to prove you're strong, you just need to do what the easily shaken can't sustain. When others give up from exhaustion, you stay consistent. When they get distracted by opinions, you stay focused. When they choose what's easy, you choose what's right. And you repeat that in silence until your stability makes others take you seriously. No one needs to know how much you've endured. They'll understand when you're the last one still standing. Not because you were the loudest, but because you were the only one who never let emotions pull you away from your purpose. That's what a steel mind looks like. Not loud, not showy, but every step it takes makes others think twice before underestimating it. People say you have to move fast, you have to break through, you have to achieve results before a certain age, by a certain timeline, or to meet some social standard. But no one tells you the most important truth. The one who moves fast isn't necessarily the one who finishes. In the long game, it's not speed, but endurance that determines who stays. You see others surge ahead, they succeed early, they gain attention, they show up in places you haven't even stepped into. But what you don't see is this: many sprint too soon, burn up all their energy to win short-term recognition and collapse halfway. They aren't defeated by failure, they're defeated by exhaustion. But you, if you're clear-headed enough not to be swept away by the fever of instant achievements, will preserve something few possess: endurance. Endurance doesn't come from motivation, it comes from the system you build. It comes from small habits, repeated daily, regardless of how you feel. You can't run a marathon if every morning you have to ask yourself, should I try today? True endurance begins the moment you stop asking and just do, as a natural rhythm, as a non-negotiable commitment. Speed keeps your focus on the outcome. Endurance keeps you anchored in the process. And the process is where you truly grow. You learn more deeply, you fix more mistakes, you understand yourself better. You know when to rest, when to accelerate, not out of fear of falling behind, but because you've built enough strength to go even further. Someone with endurance doesn't need to win today. They just need to still be standing 10 years from now. The world will always celebrate the ones who rise quickly, but history is written by those who never gave up, those who quietly did the right thing for years without needing reminders, those who didn't panic when others pulled ahead. They understand this truth. The winner isn't the one who burns the brightest, but the one who can repeat the steps even when the excitement is gone. And also gives you another powerful advantage. You're no longer affected by other people's pace. You don't get dragged into races that aren't yours. You don't need to prove anything by running faster. You prove it by still being here when everyone else has stopped. And you're not worried about not seeing results right away, because you know anything valuable takes time. A mature tree doesn't bear fruit after a few weeks. A resilient human isn't built after a few courses. You're nurturing something invisible, and you accept that speed doesn't define worth. In truth, most people don't fail because they're not smart enough. They fail because they lack patience. They can't handle the feeling of slow progress. They want fast results. They crave completion, recognition, admiration as soon as possible, and so they cut corners. They push too hard. They take the shortcut. But when things stall, they have no foundation to stand on. You, on the other hand, if you accept slow but steady, will build a system that cannot collapse. Endurance isn't flashy, it doesn't sell well, it doesn't impress on social media, but it's the only thing that keeps you from being eliminated. You don't have to be the best today, you just have to still be doing the work when everyone else has quit. And by then you won't need to say anything. Your continuous presence, your stubborn persistence, your tireless consistency will be the loudest declaration of your capability. If you're moving slowly, don't worry. The question is not how fast you go, it's how long you can keep your pace. You don't need to win the race in a week, a month, or a year. You need to win over 10 years, 20 years, a lifetime. And to do that, you need the one thing few are willing to train: unshakable endurance. Speed may impress, but only endurance builds legacy. Success isn't about how long people remember you after you leave a room. It's not about follower counts, applause, or how loudly your name echoes. Real success is when you look at your own life and know every detail in it was chosen by you, built by you, and owned by you. The greatest success doesn't live in the noise, it lives in intention. It doesn't come from how many things you do to impress others, but from how many things you do that are true to your values. No applause needed, No recognition required, no stage necessary. Just the ability to look around your life and see clearly, I created this from zero with discipline and through days when no one was watching. You don't need to become someone impressive, you just need to become someone you can respect. Because fame can happen by accident. Attention can come from a moment of luck. But a life with depth, direction, and roots, that only comes from intentional choices repeated with commitment over many years. Real success isn't flashy. It's the quiet peace you feel when you go to sleep without regret. The calm when you look back and know you didn't chase someone else's standards. It's when you no longer need to explain why you live the way you do, because your existence is already the answer, and you don't need anyone to validate that. A truly successful life is when you know exactly why you wake up early each day, why you say no to tempting invitations, why you choose a slower, harder, less traveled path. And when the results come, you don't need to announce them. You just look back and smile. Not because you've conquered the world, but because you've conquered yourself. Many people chase noise, but have no idea what they're living for. They reach the height of fame, yet feel empty every night. Because what they built wasn't a real life, it was a stage. And the spotlight doesn't last. The audience will leave. The applause will stop. And when that happens, if you have nothing solid inside, you will collapse in silence. You don't need to live for the noise. Live to build a foundation that holds you when everything else falls apart. A foundation no one can see, but you know every brick you laid. A foundation strong enough not just to hold you up, but to lift others when they need it. Real success isn't when others think you're great. It's when you know you don't need to be a copy of anyone else. It's when you no longer try to keep up with someone, you just make sure you're better than you were yesterday. It's when you stop living for expectations and start living by a standard you set for yourself, one you never compromise. One day, if you can look back and realize that every important decision in your life came from a clear mind, not from emotion, not from pressure, then whether you're famous or not, you're successful because you've designed your life instead of letting others write the script. True success doesn't need to be announced. It quietly lives in how you speak, how you act, how you stand steady when others are shaken, and it leaves its mark not with noise but with presence. People walk into a room with you and feel there's someone who isn't trying to become something. They're just being themselves, and that's powerful enough. Build your life like a silent masterpiece. No noise, no glitter, no craving for applause, but strong, true, deep, rooted. And as time passes, you'll see those who lived for the noise will fade, but those who lived for the foundation, they leave something that won't. A life that was real, that carried weight, and that left lasting value. That is the greatest success anyone can achieve, if they're brave enough to build it themselves.